bring in the man behind the 3,156-word column, Zach. Because what is your number one thing that you like in the NBA this week?
Number one was the Atlanta Hawks. A lot of turmoil in Atlanta. Guys stepping down, all sorts of rumors. Nate McMillan this, Trae Young that. 6-2 in their last 8 games, and their offense, which has been all season, is kind of humming. A lot of it is just sort of random hot jump shooting and floaters and stuff. But if we go to the tape, I see some flashes of stuff that I like in Atlanta. This is one. Here's Trae Young. Get off the ball early, right at the foul line. Don't meander. And then that gets the Knicks in rotation. Everybody gets to touch it. This is a miss. But that's how the Hawks played when they went to the conference finals 2 years ago. Everyone touches it. Here's another one. Trae Young's in the corner. So often when DeJounte Murray has the ball, he's up at half court. You don't even see him. In the corner, he can attack closeouts, set screens, and do stuff like this. And I just like when they get the pace moving. It's so much more organic. It flows better. You got to press Trae Young up high. He goes, he gets a layup. It becomes just less about Trae Young dribbling the air out of the ball and more organic flow to it. I like that. Keep it up, Hawks.
So the Atlanta offense has been interesting to you recently, but there's also a defense in the East that caught your eye?
Yeah, the Cavs defense, number one in the NBA. Everyone gives the credit to Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Those guys are awesome. The question before the season was, Donovan Mitchell looked bad in the playoffs. Darius Garland, kind of undersized. Karis LeVert, blah, blah, blah. Those guys have been bringing it all year in ways you might not notice if you don't watch closely. Like if we look at the tape of this Knicks game this week, some of the stuff, those guards, little guards, that was the question. Look at Donovan Mitchell here. Look at Isaac Okoro digs down there. Look at the rotations. Darius Garland, I got you. Donovan Mitchell, okay, Darius Garland, I got you. Isaac Okoro, boom, I got you. Bam, bam, bam. To do that over and over and over again, 100 possessions a game, is really, really hard and takes a lot of focus. The Cavs have been nailing that all season. And look at Donovan Mitchell. You want to give a handoff to RJ Barrett? No. Try again? No. Try one more time? No. Okay, try here? No, Darius Garland. They finally get one. One more switch, and then Jared Allen will just eat you alive at the basket. The question for the Cavs was, could their guards hold up their end of the bargain defensively? And they have more than answered the question. That's great stuff on that tape.
So 2 things down, 8 to go, but we only have time for one more. So the biggest thing out west is what?
The biggest thing, maybe not the biggest, but the Pelicans quietly have been 3-11 in their last 14 games. And yes, Zion's been out and Brandon Ingram's been out, and that's why any team would suffer without its 2 best players. But the 4 seed in the West is now in play. They're only 26-23. And they just haven't been able to score points. And if you look at the tape, it's obvious why. They just don't have enough shooting. The paint is filled with both Pelicans players kind of bumping into each other. Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels almost bump into each other down there. And defensive players who are saying, you know what, you want to shoot, you want to shoot, you want to shoot, fine. With a few exceptions like Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum, they're just letting guys shoot threes. Herb Jones isn't making them. Jose Alvarado's been cold after a hot start. Everything relies on Zion's ability to say spacing. Who needs spacing? I'll just run through everybody and dunk and we'll get offensive rebounds and free throws. They need him back stat because they're at risk of falling into the play-in tournament after a great, great start to the season.
I want to bring Brian Windhorst into the conversation because we just heard about the Cavs, the Pelicans, the Hawks. I want to stick with the Hawks, Brian, real quick here. What is the word around the league as folks are looking? Okay, is anyone going to become available? Is this team going to be one that's sticking together and run it back? As we approach the trade deadline, what are you hearing around there?
Yeah, so if I could put the trade deadline into one word, I would say Raptors. Raptors, Raptors, Raptors. When you talk to league executives, they want to know what the Raptors are going to do. And trust me, they are calling the Raptors and saying, what are you going to do? And the Raptors are saying, we'll talk to you when we get home. Woj mentioned it earlier in the show that they're going to wait until the end of this road trip. By the way, this road trip goes until the Sunday before the trade deadline. It's a 7-game trip. It's one of the longest trips in the NBA this year. The reason that people are so interested in the Raptors is that this is a very shallow trade market. If the Raptors decide to be sellers, they could make 2 or 3 players available that could change the landscape of the whole thing. Having said that, they've already got one good win. If they get a good road trip here, they could come back to Toronto and actually want to be buyers. because they have all their picks going forward and a bunch of other young assets. So the Raptors right now have their hands on the steering wheel of this trade deadline. And between now and the actual trade deadline week, we may not know which way they're going to turn it. And that is going to be an interesting period as we watch them go through this trip and everybody in the league taking notes on what they think that they're going to do.
Brian, there are some trade deadlines where we just see a whole lot of action. And then in ones like this year, you're saying it's more of a shallow trade deadline. Can you just explain to folks at home why maybe that shift is?
Yeah, because, I mean, look at where the Lakers are right now. The Lakers are in 13th place in the West, right? And they are 3 games out of fourth. So how can any of those teams in there all think they've got a shot? Zach just talked about how the Pelicans were like in great shape in second place. They've had a bad couple of weeks, and now they're like a bad week from being in the play-in. So you have all of those teams smushed together. Here's the other thing. You hear about, oh, this guy wants 3 first-round picks. They want 2 first-round picks for this guy. I want 11 first-round picks for this guy. There's no first-round picks. So many first-round picks have been traded. There's like 7 or 8 teams that couldn't trade a pick if Michael Jordan was available in his prime right now. They can't trade it. They literally don't have the ability to trade it. So all these teams out there that are actually willing to trade people say, okay, send me your first-round picks. And it's like, there's not that many teams who have the ability to do it. So you put all that together and you have the makings of a quiet deadline. Having said that, today is January 27th. Special day for some of us around here. January 27th. It is not February 7th. February 7th, a lot of things could change. That's what we're going to wait and see. But today, it's mostly quiet.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.